All right, I hope you had a great break. So we're back talking about personal protective equipment, PPE. Objective is at the end of the session, you'll be able to apply generic and relevant PPE knowledge to your roles. So I'm not sure if you ever heard of PPE, personal protective equipment. Very common in the workplace. We're going to go through some practice soon. But let's watch a video. Watch this space. So pretty powerful message there. What do you guys think about this video?
Yeah, I think what stood out to me the most was the slogan that I wrote down, no helmet, no safety. I thought that was really catchy and I think that should be used a bit more often, on posters or things for people to see and to remember to put their helmets on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know the term, but after watching the video I realised, that's, what you see everywhere, people wearing their equipment. I just didn't know the term.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also heard it setting on from Robin that heard those vests called high-vis vests. A lot of people say that around the yard, high-vis.
Yeah. Very, very common type of PPE as well, helmets or hard hats we call it. And high-vis vests and safety shoes. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a practice later on the ones that are the most common ones in the workplace. But yes, the video that we just saw, it's meant to be funny, but it's also tragic. It's, you have to think about, when you're in the workplace, you need to think about the consequences to your actions. So if you don't put the PPE on, it's, a hard hat in this case, what is going to happen to you? Can you go back to your home safely? Or this could happen to you. So just need to think about these things. In OH&S, everything cause consequence. Just really make sure that you wear your PPE, whatever you need to wear in the workplace, depends on your tasks, and we're going to be talking about that. But yeah, it's just a really good video to think about, PPE. And we're going to go into definitions. Safe Work Australia says that personal protective equipment or PPE refers to anything used or worn to minimise risk to workers' health and safety. It's a form of risk control. So, and then we have all the terms that you can hear a lot in the workplace. For example, hazard. Hazard is a situation or a thing to potentially harm a person. So we're talking about noisy machinery, moving forklift, chemicals, electricity, working at heights, repetitive job, bullying and violence in a workplace. All these are examples of hazard. Whereas risk, and they all sound very similar, but risk is the possibility that harm, meaning death, injury or illness, might occur in the when you're exposed to the hazard. And risk control is when you're going to do an action to eliminate risks and, if not possible, minimize them so far as reasonably practical. Eliminating a hazard will also eliminate any risks associated with that hazard. So these are the type of definitions that some people get confused. They all might sound similar, like I said, but they do have different, definitions. And here I have an example of some PPE used in the workplace that is very common. We've got protective helmets, eyewear, earplugs, dust masks, protective boots, safety gloves, high-vis clothes. So all these constitute PPE, but they can be different depending on what you're doing.
Like I'd add rubber gloves, for example, cleaning products.
Yeah, yeah, heavy-duty ones. Yeah. And so employers, they go through identifying, assessing, and controlling those hazards. Employers like CLE, we go through a risk management process. So here you are, you got step one, you identify those hazards. What are they? And then you go into step two, you assess them. You know the risks. So what are the risks? How can you control them? Once you control the risks, then you go to step four, which is you review the control measures. Do they work? Does the control measures that are put in place or the company put in place work? Yes, no. Can I make it better? Can I make it safer? And throughout the entire process, you're actively consulting with employees, and with contractors. So they are part of the whole management process. There's a management commitment from the employer. You need to be participating, you need to be providing some feedback. We're going to be consulting with you guys in all regards to OH&S. And as you can see here, there's a hierarchy of controls from the least effective to the most effective. And you might think, yeah, PPE is quite safe. It'll give me lots of protection. Maybe it's really effective, but interesting to know that PPE is the least effective of all the controls that you can use. So what can you do to help in terms of controlling risks? The first thing you could do, which is the most effective, is eliminate that risk. So how can you eliminate the risk? You can remove, for example, quantities of chemical accumulated over time in a laboratory. So that chemical you don't need anymore, it constitutes some sort of hazard. You can eliminate it. Example of substitution. Substituting, you're actually replacing the hazard. What you do, for example, you use a less risky way to achieve the same outcome. And for example, you replace the solvent of solvent-based printing inks with water-based ones. So they provide less fumes, less chemicals. It's better for you. It's a substitution. So you're replacing that hazard. Then we go to engineering, isolating people from the hazard. And what is an example of that? Alteration to tools, equipment or work systems that can make them safer. For example, using drills that vibrate less to provide a less chance of MSDs that we spoke about back in manual handling. Then we go into administrative. You change the way people work. So if people will have that information, it does not remove the hazards, but it limits or prevents people exposure to the hazards. So for example, we could be providing training for you guys in OH&S. This way you have a knowledge of what to do and what not to do. Procedure changes, you can do rosters, you can do employee training, as I said, installation of signage and warning signs. All this is part of administrative controlling. And finally, we have what we've been speaking about, which is the protective, personal protective equipment, which is the PPE, the least effective, but doesn't mean we should ignore it. It's actually really good. It's safety boots, masks, high-vis vests. PPE should be used as a last resort where there are no other practical control measures available. But it doesn't mean that you cannot have a combination of things, a combination of controls to help you lessen the hazards in the workplace. You can have a mix of them. It just depends on what the situation, what the hazard is, and then you can work out through consultation, as I said, of employees and contractors, and in conjunction with HSRs, we can work ways to control those hazards in the workplace. So let's go into PPE for your industry. For example, in cleaning, all these examples of PPE you could be using. They vary according to where you are at work. It could be at a hospital, you could be in the office, in the warehouse, on the street. Depends on the tasks that you perform, the levels of risk. So for example, you're a cleaner. You could be a cleaner in a warehouse. In a warehouse, you're going to have forklifts, so you should be wearing your high-vis vest. In this case, this is an example of what not to do, because she is clearly in a warehouse. This is a forklift right near her, and she's not using a high-vis vest. She should be using a high-vis vest. But that she does have the gloves to protect from the chemicals that she's cleaning. She's got the goggles, and she's got, it's probably a dusty environment. She's got a mask on. So there's so many things that you can use. Anti-slip shoes if you're in an environment that is quite slippery. Yeah, you've got lots of things. You can put a vest on. Lots of options for you to protect. And when you're an electrician, for example, you can use safety glasses. For example, this one blocks sunglass. So if you're working outside, you could use that to protect yourself. Ear protection in case of noisy work environments. Safety harness. Depends if you're climbing somewhere. If you're on the top of a pole, like fixing cables, or then you could be using that, or rubber gloves. Protectors, work boots, jeans. There's these jeans like flame resistant jeans that you can use as well when you're working with electricity. Hot stick, so that's to do with when you're working with high electricity, like right on top of cables and poles and power lines. Yeah, shirts and lanyards and rubber sleeves, hard hats. All these, it just depends on what you're doing. The shoes specifically for electricians as well, and many other things. So it depends. If you're working, for example, in a place of infectious disease, you would probably be wearing vests appropriate for that. So it just really depends on where you're working, what you're doing. It will vary, and there's so many variety of things that you can use. Factors, maintenance, and sharing of PPE. So when you're planning for whatever PPE you're using, you need to think about the worker that could be involved in choosing the PPE. Could be suitable, comfortable. Is that the right size shoes for your worker? Is that the right high-vis vest for them? Does the hard hat fit on them? Medical conditions as well. There could be, for whatever, maybe sunglasses. They might be wearing a prescription and they need something specific, sunglasses specific for that. Individual circumstances, like I said, prescription glasses, latex, allergy, medical conditions. Also, you need to consider factors such as the tasks. As I said, match the PPE to the hazard. Base it on the risk levels. How long the PPE needs to be worn. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable. How long do you need to wear it? Is it going to be comfortable enough for the worker? Level of physical activity required. Can all required PPEs be used together? Can you have a combination of different PPEs? Does that work? Can you actually even walk with so many things on you? Work environment. Is that an uncomfortable workplace? Extreme temperatures. What can you do about that? Fumes, hazardous chemicals and substances. You can use PPE to help with that. And then you have the maintenance. Of course, you need to take proper care and maintain your PPE. Broken or damaged components, repair and replace as needed. Replace PPE that has expired or reached its usable lifespan. You can clean your reusable PPE, store in a clean area, and report broken, damaged, and contaminated PPE. And with sharing, you might think maybe PPE should just be for myself. Well, in this case, it depends on the PPE you're using. Most PPE is for personal use of the worker, but sometimes you can share the PPE if you only need it for a few minutes or a few hours. And if you're sharing that, you need to properly clean it before using it again. An example in the workplace is when you have high-vis vests and visitors come to our company to visit the warehouse, for example, they need to have high-vis vests on because of our forklifts. So you need to make sure you have something for them. You're not expecting that they will bring their high-vis with them, so we have high-vis vests available for the visitors, and they will use it for a few minutes or a few hours and put it back again. Of course, if they're dirty, damaged or anything, that's when we'll be replacing them. And then monitoring, reviewing and consultation. So it is important to monitor risk control measures and ensure that they remain effective. Employers must review the measures and revise them if necessary. As I said to you guys, does the control measures that are put in place work? Elimination, substitution, PPE, are they working well? They're not working well. Why? Why is that? How can we improve that? So the constant monitoring, reviewing, working with people, with our people, our employees and contractors, to be part of this process. Employers must, it's our job as CLE, employers must, so far as reasonably practical, consult with employees and HSRs. HSR is a health and safety representative for the workplace, so it represents the employees and even contractors. So if you have any questions about anything to do in OH&S, if you want to report complaints, questions or suggestions, improvements, anything to do with OH&S, you can contact Mr. John Smith face-to-face, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Here's his email and mobile number. So he is a person that you can talk to in regards to anything to do with OH&S. You can talk to your manager as well, but here's an example of a person that will know everything to do with OH&S and be there to help you. And we would like to have your contribution in that, in anything that you're doing. If you think maybe I shouldn't be doing this, just consult. You can welcome to consult with John and ask, or maybe or report anything that you might think that is has some sort of hazard or could be dangerous for somebody. These matters are related to health and safety and affect or indirectly affect you. It extends to the contractors, as I said, engaged by the employer in relationship matters over which the employer has control. So in the OH&S Act, it says that yes, contractors and employees are seen the same way. We are responsible, to consult with both employees and contractors. So it is our job to do that. So yes, feel free to contact us for anything to do with OH&S. And it's practice time. So we're going to be learning to use some of the most common PPEs in the workplace. Here are the ones that we use mostly at CLE. Safety boots, high-vis vests and hard hats. So we're going to take some time and I'll show you how to put them on. Okay, and finally we're going to do the practice on PPE. So I've got a high-vis vest I just put on. Just make sure that you close it properly. As you can see, this has got a reflective tape. It means that normally it's used for nighttime. And some of the high-vis vests, you notice that they don't have anything because they're used during daytime. Other things to think about, like you can have it in orange, you can have it in yellow color. Sometimes the workplace wants to differentiate workers that work in a warehouse to visitors. It just depends, on what people, it just varies from workplace to workplace in terms of colors. And then you've got, so this is very common in many workplaces, especially if you're dealing with forklifts. In a warehouse, for example, you want to make sure that you're visible. So that's something that we have at CLE. As you're entering the warehouse, make sure that you have the high-vis vest on. Then next we have a hard hat that you have, straps to adjust to your head. So just put it on, adjust the sizing to suit your head, and the safety shoes. Okay, so this is how, this is the PPE that we use. And would you guys like to come and try it on? And just letting you know, so this looks quite big on me. You would have your proper one upon induction as we go through training and everything. Once you start, you receive a high-vis vest for yourself. So I'll have to ask you sizing and everything for shoes and hat and a high-vis vest. So it should fit you properly, appropriately. So who would like to come first?
Thank you. I might put that on in a minute. Okay, so I've got the vest on and shoes. And just see. Oh, I think I might need to adjust that.
So next time you just adjust to the head, to the head size, and you're perfect to go and work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Robin. So I can see almost pretty much perfect, apart from just making sure that you've got the vest properly closed. But yes, hat perfect, and just maybe a little bit more. Yeah, at the bottom as well. Perfect. Yep. Fantastic. So you're all ready to go as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for participating once again of the practice time in PPE. So just some key points to remember. Very simple. PPE, anything used or worn to minimize risks to workers' health and safety. It varies according to where you work, tasks performed, and risk levels. Important factors you need to consider. Take into consideration your workers, their tasks, and the work environment. The least effective form of risk control in the hierarchy, yet essential in the workplaces. So it must be taken in good care and maintained, and is for personal use but can also be shared if used temporarily, but must be properly cleaned for use again. So this is the summary really of everything that we've seen, that we've discussed about. Very simple. As I said to you, will vary according to your tasks, to the things that you do, and you just need to make sure that you wear them appropriately. And if you have any questions in regards how to use it or anything or HNS related, you're welcome to contact us or speak with us. These are references. And now we're going to go into a little bit of a brief discussion time. We'd like to know from you guys, tell us what were some of the notes you have written down was listening to the sessions, and why did you do that? One thing that really caught your attention during the 3 training sessions, and how will you apply these learning topics to your role whilst working at CLE? And of course, if you have any questions in regards to anything, that we spoke about during the training sessions, you can ask now. Otherwise, we're going to go into the brief discussion time. Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, well, let's have some discussion time.
Okay.
Who would like to start?
One of the things I wrote was the awareness that apart from the role that you're there to do, which is the cleaning in my case, just to be constantly aware of potential hazards in the environment. So you're not just there to do the task, but your role is there to be alert and to go through the procedures to report back to the company if there's something that needs to be attended to that I may not be able to do anything about. For example, I did see a cleaner, as I said before, my past work experience in a school, and there was some badly worn carpet, and it was definitely potential for tripping. And so the procedure was, there was a reporting back procedure to the administration.
Okay.
So just that awareness.
Okay. What about you, Anna?
Yeah, I found just taking away from this training that safety comes first, and need to be vigilant with remembering all the things that all of the three main topics, and especially protective equipment, and not to be slack with that, because sometimes people say, oh, I won't put my hard hat on because it's just a bit troublesome, or not to be slack with that, and just to remember to use all these things because it's important, and it's better to be safe than sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
How do you believe you're going to apply the learning topics to your roles?
One of the ones that I thought most about was when you are doing something repetitive, to be conscious of changing your physical, in my case, if I was vacuuming a lot and there was another task in that area, perhaps to be doing that for a certain length of time, and then, it would be easy to go and continue vacuuming. But to just think, no, I need to change my my body position, to just give it a break, that sort of thing.
Have a bit of a rest so you can, avoid injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, for me, the thing that I came away with, or that stood out to me, was the statistics for manual handling hazards, which shows you that can be something that people can be quite a big issue, just haphazardly, with people not being careful with the way that they're moving around or using equipment. If it's, if there is that routine all the time, it's good to keep you on your toes and to be aware of what you're doing all the time, so that you don't end up having hazards or issues come about from work-related activities. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, very good. Yes, I hope you guys enjoyed all the sessions. And if you have any questions, once again, you're welcome to ask now. Otherwise, yes, it was a pleasure to have you guys here. And I'd like to just leave one more message for you guys. Stop, think, and act. Just think about, stop. What can I do? How can I help my workplace? How can I help myself? How can I help other employees to make this CLE a safer place for everybody? It's part of my duty as a worker. It will help my employer. So that's when you think about it, then you act about it. If you have any questions in OH&S, anything related to that, if you think that there's something that it could be a hazard to other people, you are welcome to report any potential hazards. So in the workplace, please come and speak with us, your health and safety representative, CLE's health and safety representative. And if you have any questions as well, feel free to have a talk with me after this session. That'll be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Juliana.